Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for logging in and watching our second of our GEMS webinar series this summer. Today's webinar, we are looking at the impact of COVID on the tourism industry, a huge topic, but actually we've got two fantastic guests here who will try at least to guide us through and provide their thoughts and feelings on the industry, what will happen, and then give a couple of tips for graduates at the end. First, if I could ask Prakash, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Prakash Krishnamurthy. I'm Director Development for Accor Hotels. Accor Hotels is a global hotel chain with 6,000 hotels. We welcome 600,000 guests every single day, and we're based over in 90 countries. So that's me, basically.
Fantastic, thank you. And Richard?
Hi, morning everyone. So I'm Richard Lee. I'm General Manager at the Hilton Garden Inn at Heathrow. The hotel here is owned and operated by a Swedish company, Pandox, and we work with Hilton as a franchisee. It's a 364-bedroom, 4-star hotel located right at Heathrow Airport. So before COVID, it was a very busy operation, sort of 90% occupancy, bar, restaurant, shop, 10 meeting rooms, all the usual facilities. Just been through a big refurbishment, so we're pretty busy with that before COVID. And obviously, the crisis has changed a few things, but that's what we're going to talk about a little bit more today.
Fantastic. So, kind of as you mentioned, Richard, and if you wouldn't mind kind of kicking off, March 16th, I remember we had our Future Chef final at Springboard, and kind of got a message through at 5 o'clock saying, working from home. The whole kind of, it all really spiraled from that day. When lockdown hit, Richard, what was it like for you personally, kind of within your organisation?
Yeah, so I think in Heathrow we'd seen the impact of COVID sort of building up really from January, because we'd seen a drop off in a lot of Asian business, starting to see some international travel dropping off January, February, and March. But nobody really knew how serious it was then, and we got into that point, you say around the 16th of March, those couple of weeks there, where it was just coming at us thick and fast, and it was every single day there was new announcements. Every single day the news agenda was getting worse. We were seeing cancellations. It's the only time sort of managing a hotel I've ever seen negative pickup, so we were getting more cancellations than bookings on a daily basis. And it was just really, really snowballing. And you could see how serious it was. And it was quite challenging at the time to really keep up with the pace of change. We were sort of going with government announcements, and then 2 days later it would change, and we were having to readapt. So it was a very, very intense period. And then when the actual lockdown came in, I think we've had a bit of a different experience to probably a lot of other hospitality businesses, that when it first came in, we'd actually got a large group with us. We've got 200 Saudi students with us awaiting repatriation. And when the government ordered hotels to close, we couldn't just throw these people out onto the street. We had to carry on looking after them. And then as various other hotels closed at Heathrow, we were sort of picking up more and more business because people still needed somewhere to stay. So we sort of looked at things and really took some time to try and understand exactly what we could and couldn't do within the lockdown guidance. And we realised that in fact we could stay open, that we'd have to limit a lot of our services, we'd have to close bar and restaurant, have to sort of take away any communal seating in the lounge areas and things like that. But we realised we could actually stay open, and we thought, well, maybe that's the right thing to do, and to try and stay open and help the situation. People still need accommodation. People still need somewhere safe to stay. So we thought we'd give it our best shot and try to continue working. That wasn't an easy decision to make. I don't know if any of us really knew if we were doing the right thing or not at the time. We felt it was a lot to ask for the team, but we had most of our team went off on furlough, and we kept a small group of us who were all sort of happy to work and happy to do it. And yeah, we've been a couple of weeks. We really had to change the whole operation of the hotel, introduce social distancing, introduce enhanced cleaning measures, PPE, all the things which now are kind of the new normal, I suppose. We had to get to grips with fairly quickly while still operating quite a busy hotel. So yeah, we stayed open. Business was very much up and down, dependent on groups and key workers. There's obviously not been a lot of transient business around because people have not been able to travel. But you know, it was just. I do think now, looking back on it, it was the right decision. You know, we've stayed open. We've kept revenue coming in. We've operated safely. We've not had any issues with COVID cases. We've kept money coming into the business. We've kept people in jobs. It's still very, very challenging, but I think now looking back on it, it was absolutely the right thing to stay open.
Richard, I think.
Helps if I unmute myself. Yep. Classic webinar occurrence there. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where it's been so varied for different hotels, and actually it's really easy for people to say, oh, you know, it's been really catastrophic for the hotel industry, which it has, but to a certain extent you've not done as badly as other hotels throughout this, thanks to kind of your positioning during that.
Yeah, absolutely. It's still pretty catastrophic, but when we looked at the options, you know, we were forecasting to lose sort of £250,000 a month if we closed the hotel, because we've got quite a high fixed cost base. You know, you can't just shut up a hotel and walk away from it. You know, you still need to keep people in for security of the building. So, you know, it was going to cost a significant amount to keep it closed. So really anything that improves on that position was worth doing. And, you know, we've more or less broken even most months. So, you know, we're not making profit. I don't think many people really are, but it's just enough to keep a head above water. And that really helps my team as well. And hopefully, you know, that gives people, we should be able to retain a few more jobs and you know, the business is in a much stronger place to recover.
Fantastic. And I suppose I'll throw that now over to you, Prakash. Just how has it been for you? What's it been like for you?
So I should just give a little bit of background. So I look after, I work in the real estate and finance side of the hospitality industry. So, and just for the students who are listening to this, one thing you should remember is the way a hotel, the value of a hotel. So if you're saying a hotel is worth £1 million, the reason you get to £1 million is because probably the cash flow or the profit that the hotel is earning is 100, 150, 200,000 pounds, and hence it's valued at £1 million. Now, as what we heard from Richard, if the cash flow of a hotel reduces, the value of the hotel also reduces. It's not, of course, immediate, but over the long term. So if the impact of COVID carries on and we see it carrying on to the first quarter next year, we will see a drop in the value of hotels. And the minute this happens, a lot of people all the private equity companies, high net worth individuals who can afford to buy these hotels will be able to buy these hotels at a discount. And because of that, in the development cycle of hotels, it's very, very busy for us. So when we're working now, we're trying to make sure that we can work and see what are the opportunities in the market, which hotels will come to market. There are a lot of conversations happening. Is there going to be a rescue package from banks? You know, because everyone still has to pay their mortgage, or what you'd call their, what they've borrowed from the banks to run these hotels. So there are a lot of questions, unanswered questions that will come to hand that need to be answered. There's only so many articles you can read in the press right now about landlord-tenant relationships where hotels have been just shut down and they're not being able to pay their rent to the landlords. So in those situations, what's going to happen to those hotels? So there's a lot of it is quite busy in the development cycle of hotels, and we'd see a lot more hotels coming to the market. So it's keeping us busy in the real estate world.
Fantastic. I mean, it seems like people have either kind of been furloughed in the industry and are kind of twiddling their thumbs, and we've had some fantastic responses from those people to kind of volunteer with the Springboard charity. Or it seems people are kind of busier than ever and really having to knuckle down and work, like you said, Prakash. So that's really what it's been like for you guys. But I suppose in terms of the industry as a whole and how we can look forward, what do you think the kind of way forward will be, and what real changes do you think there will be moving forward? If I could ask that to Richard first.
Yeah, well, it's great to see that over the last couple of weeks, we've got the industry open again, and we've got bars and restaurants, back on the market, back open again. So that's it's really good to see, and I mean that's a massive step forward compared to where we were a few weeks ago. Obviously, guest confidence is quite low, and I think there's a lot of work we need to do in terms of rebuilding that confidence and demonstrating to people that we can operate safely, that it can still be a pleasant experience to go out. I mean, I'm seeing it when I go out and about outside of work. I was one of the first ones on Saturday the 4th. I had my table booked ready for dinner, couldn't wait to get back out there. But that first weekend, it was very, very quiet, and you could feel there was a real nervousness out there. In the last couple of weeks, last weekend, I went out again, and it seemed a bit more normal. There seemed a lot more, a lot more activity and a lot more normal atmosphere. So I think slowly, people's confidence will come back. But we've got big responsibility as operators to help them with that. So, with Hilton have launched a program called Clean Stay, which is their commitment to quality and cleanliness. We've put in place a number of measures around, again, enhanced cleaning with different touch points in the rooms. The rooms are sealed now after cleaning, so the guest knows that nobody else goes in there. We've had to put in place social distancing, obviously, in the bar and restaurant, and change some of the service flow in food and beverage of how we do that. Change some of the ways the staff work, obviously with sort of protective screens and PPE. A lot of the stuff that now you see is becoming kind of normal when you go out. We had to get to grips with that quite quickly because we stayed open, and we were really learning on the go, I suppose, with it. But then after a few weeks with it, we decided to really sit down and formalise it, make a proper plan. And we actually had an external audit from Bureau Veritas, who came and gave us a certificate of assurance to show that we're COVID secure. Nobody can say they're COVID free, but we're COVID secure. We've got the right measures in place, and we've used that a lot with some of our business clients and corporate clients. To go out and show them what we've done. So I think the industry's got a lot of work to do in terms of re-educating people and showing that we can do this and we can do this safely. I think in terms of where business is going to recover, again, it seems to be quite a clear trend at the moment that there's going to be a strong demand over the summer holidays for sort of UK domestic leisure destinations. It's great to see, some of the properties in sort of Lake District, Cornwall beach destinations, to see that they're already getting really busy over the summer. I think that's still going to be quite challenging for the cities. London is still quite sluggish to recover. Here at Heathrow, we obviously rely on international travel, so I think our market is going to probably be one of the last to recover. We really need to get international travel flowing again at a meaningful level before we can really look at the market coming back to how it was. But, there will be opportunities. Corporate business has to start again at some point. Companies rely on having people out on the road doing projects and doing business, and that has to come back. I mean, there's this big trend towards remote working and using Zoom and other technology. But I think there's still a lot of value in face-to-face meetings, and that has to restart again. So I'm kind of expecting from September we'll start to see some pickup again. And I think it'll take a couple of years to fully recover back to 2019 levels. But assuming there's no second spike, hopefully we've been through the bottom of this now and we'll be on a road to recovery.
Fantastic. Prakash, I saw you during that. You nodded along, agreeing with quite a few of those points there. What's your perspective? I imagine it's similar, but what's kind of your take on this?
So very similar to what Richard said. Road to recovery, we're seeing at least coming back to 2019 levels. The pundits, as they say, are saying 2 years at least is what we're seeing for getting back to 2019 levels, because we're really doing well till with everything that was going on. We still in 2019 for the growth since 2008 has been really good. So we did see a big drop in our rate and occupancy, but it's been steadily growing for the last 12 years, and then we've stagnated again in 2020 because of this pandemic. And it's going to take and we are going to see a dip. The consumer confidence needs to come back. That's key. We need to make sure, as again Richard said, the second spike is going to be something that is going to be worrying people all around. It's global. It's just not here in the UK. It's how the virus impacts the world. It's going to impact UK directly. And the last one, of course, is if you can get a vaccine. The sooner a vaccine is created, I think that alone will give a lot more confidence to consumers to start traveling again. Again, in terms of Accor, as what we're doing, we've also gone with Veritas, and we've got all our hotels are getting certificated to make sure that our consumers or our guests feel that they're safe in our hotels. We've got a partnership with AXA Insurance, so if any of the guests in our hotels need medical advice while they're staying at the hotel, it's free for them. And the last one, which is more towards staff, any of our staff who's been, so we've created a fund which allows our staff to get some help, financial help during these difficult times if they've been furloughed because of there is no work out there. Or limited hotels are open. So during the time that the hotels were closed, if they needed any financial support, we were providing that to our staff as well. So that's in a nutshell what we're trying to do for the road to recovery. It's going to be a long process. And in terms of, again, I always flip back to, from a development perspective, it probably you'd see a lot more. It will slow down construction slightly, but people are still calling us. We're still getting a lot of leads and a lot of. We are closing on business on developments that will be built in another 2-3 years by the time the pandemic hopefully is over. That's where we're at.
Fantastic. And I suppose within that, and you've already kind of both said that there's been quite a learning process, and I know especially for you, Richard, staying open, having to do things kind of not quite on the fly, but really, adapting quickly and working with your team to make sure that you are compliant. I suppose what would you really say has been the biggest things that you've learned over this period? That's a question I haven't asked.
Yeah, I think we could all write memoirs after this period. I think it's been a crash course in crisis management, that's for sure. I think the whole style of management has changed during the crisis. I mean, when you're in a international pandemic crisis, no one really knows better than each other, So just because I'm a general manager, no one's ever told me how to manage in a pandemic, and there's no sort of management answer on what to do on some of this stuff. So, I think there was a spirit at the time that, we're all in this together, we're all on the same level, we're all faced the same challenges. Again, the sort of learning curve we were on around social distancing and COVID secure, that was really done hand in hand with the team. And you said it was on the fly. I mean, some of it was, to be honest. Some of it was just a case of, we had staff saying, I've been to Tesco and I saw they were doing this. Why don't we do that? Oh, that's a good idea. And we were picking stuff up all the time from various webinars, from our health and safety consultants, from UK hospitality, but also from what people were just seeing out and about and what other businesses were doing. And there was an element that it was on the fly, at least for the first couple of weeks, because nobody had ever done this before. And now it kind of seems obvious that, yes, you should have a screen, and yes, you should wear a mask, and yes, you should have sanitizer at the door. At the time, we'd never done that before. So it was put in on the fly. But then that was one of the reasons why after a couple of weeks, we decided to sort of sit down and formalize that and organize it into something that's, structured. And what I was saying at the time was, hospitality businesses have always been good at managing levels of risk. If we didn't have in the kitchen, if we didn't have due diligence and HACCP and control measures and trained staff, we'd have food poisoning outbreaks every day. But we don't have that because that risk exists there. We've minimized it, we've controlled it, and we manage it. And that's just perfectly normal for any cafe, bar, restaurant, hotel, pub, whatever it might be. It's just a normal part of managing a food business. And that's kind of how we've got to look at COVID. It's like the risk is there, but we can manage it and we can minimize it and we can control it. And that's sort of been our approach with it.
Fantastic. I suppose same question to you, Prakash.
So I'm going to take a slightly different approach on this question, and I would say what I've learned through this, and I'm holding strong to this: the organizations and the companies that stood by their employees, that stood by their teams, that supported them, right, through this pandemic, are going to be the companies of the future. These are the people who will mean, and Richard, you will see this, and it goes for us as well. You stayed open throughout this pandemic. You have learned so much through this entire process that you can now use, and this is knowledge that this is first-hand knowledge, right? You're getting this on-the-job experience, right, by doing it, and you know what's happened and what the changes are. You will adapt quicker than anyone else in the Heathrow market, and I'm certain of that. And that goes to us as well. We've kept our staff. We've made sure that if you don't, people are going to remember this, and people are going to remember how you behaved over these days and what you did to your staff, or what how you took care of them. And that's what's going to make the difference in a few years' time. And you will see the impact of that. I think I'm pretty sure it can be measured to see that. So that's what I think. This is what I've learned through this time, that take care of your people who work for you. It's very important.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I know one of the topics we're going to come on to is about tips for graduates. And I saw a great thing that I read online that said, the future interview question is going to be, what did you do during the 2020 pandemic? And obviously it's good if as an industry, you have a great answer for that. But your question back should be, what did you do to support your staff? So yes, explain what you've done and what you've used this time for. But also ask that back to prospective employers in the future, because I think Prakash is absolutely right. The companies who've gone the extra mile and supported people and looked after the teams are the companies you're going to want to work for in the future. So I really like that. What did you do? But the question back, well, what did you do to help your team?
Fantastic. And what a great segue into the next question there. So obviously, this is part of our GEMS webinar series, ideally delivered to undergraduate students or people who've just graduated. We've had a lot of questions about kind of, what tips could you give me if I'm looking to start a career? Should I start a career within hospitality and tourism or the events industry as well? So I know that you guys, I'm not expecting you to have all the answers, but kind of what would your tips be? What would your thoughts be for people just starting out in the industry at the moment?
I'd like to try and start off on this one. Here's the advice I can give you. When life gives you lemonade, life gives you lemons, make lemonade, right? They tell you. So for the first time, you're in a situation in your life where the future hasn't been written. There is such level of uncertainty. You can pretty much do anything right now, which is either innovative or disruptive, and get away with me. You could really become the next big person in this world if you can think of that idea. So my tips keep your eyes and ears open. See what are the changes that the industry is begging for, because everything's going to change now. Everyone's going to look at things in a different way. If you can do it faster, cheaper, and make it more accessible for people, you've got $1 million idea out there.
Fantastic. I suppose for you, Richard, what would you kind of give as one of your tips, at least for graduates?
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it's a daunting time. I mean, I think it's a daunting time for everybody when we're thinking about our future careers. But the industry is cyclical. It always has gone up and gone up and gone down. It's never gone down quite like this before, and hopefully it never will again. But the industry will come back, and I think maybe in the past, as an industry, we've been maybe guilty of not investing enough in our people at an early stage and at a developmental stage. And I think the more webinars and the more sort of conversations I've had with colleagues online, the industry is quite determined to learn from that this time and make sure we don't make the same mistake again, and make sure that we still keep development routes open for the next generation of talent, because the people who are graduating now are going to be our managers in years to come, and our general managers, in 5-10 years, however long it might take. So I think the industry is quite committed to making sure we don't shoot ourselves in the foot by closing some of those routes. But I mean, I think even if you're looking at a job in a hotel, similar to what Prakash has mentioned, look at what you can bring. How can you be of most value to the employer? Can you be flexible, multi-skilled? Because these are the sort of people we're going to need. We're going to need people who can adapt quickly to change and, maybe less rigid and structured than what we had in the past. So try and be as open-minded as possible. And I love Prakash's point about the innovation, because I'm always so impressed when I meet younger people, the sort of spirit of creativity, entrepreneurship, innovation that they have. And I think if you can find an opportunity like that, this is a great time to experiment and try things, because no one's going to judge you if something fails at the moment. You can go out and make mistakes and take a few risks, perhaps. So don't let it be too daunting.
Fantastic. I think that's great advice for everyone, to be honest. Not just hospitality or tourism or events undergraduates, but for kind of everyone in the job market at the moment. I think kind of that's really the end of this webinar. I think we've answered quite a lot of the questions. Let me just double check. We do have another question actually that's got submitted. I don't think we've kind of touched on too much. Kind of looking at the greener side of the industry. So looking at how is this an opportunity for the industry to reinvent itself, to get alongside other industries and kind of create a more green industry as we move forward, to kind of stop or at least slow down climate change. Which is an interesting thought there. Have either of you got any kind of thoughts on that one?
Yeah, there is. Sustainability, health and well-being is going to be the center of hospitality into the future. There's no doubt about that. Again, I think check your supply chain, and that's key. Constantly review your supply chain and see what are the things that you're buying and your impact on your social responsibility. Try and recycle as much as you can, reduce your plastic use. These are common things that you should be doing any day, and any human being who should be reviewing these things. That's needless to say, but we forget these things when we're working. And I'd give you a good example what we've done at work, and it's something that's worked. It got a lot of resistance first. We just took all the dustbins away from every single workspace, and it was shocking that people actually, if they wanted to throw rubbish, they had to get up and walk to the bin and throw it out there instead of just chucking it below their desk. So but it works, because one of the places that you recycle the least is in the bin below your desk, because you throw everything in one bin. But if you're walking to a place, you segregate your paper and your plastic. Just simple things like that. So yes, there's a lot of opportunity in this space. Yeah,
and I mean, I think it's probably something that we've been guilty of, sort of losing a bit of focus on during the pandemic. I think the last 2 years we've been on a real push for sustainability here. We've done so many things. right from sort of major projects on energy efficiency in the plant room down to recycling, electric car charging. There was a whole program of stuff we put in place. And I've got to say, unfortunately, at the height of the pandemic, all that kind of went out the window a little bit, and we're all back to using plastic bottles, plastic trays for room service, disposable cutlery. It was very difficult to source some items at the time, so we were just taking what we could get. We weren't really going through that sustainable sourcing process, which we'd done before. So, we have to get that back under control, and we have to get that back in. I think, again, Prakash is right, that the trend towards sustainability, sustainable travel, health and well-being, that's a fundamental trend that's probably bigger than COVID. COVID will last for a couple of years. I'm sure we'll be talking about it all our life, but it'll last for a couple of years. This trend towards sustainability has been something that's been building up for a very, very long time. And it's going to be a much more of an expectation in future. So is there an opportunity there for the industry to pivot towards that a little bit more? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a really interesting question. Maybe that could be the $1 million idea, if you can find a way for hotels to do that cheaply, quickly, sustainably, maybe that's the tip.
You heard it here first, guys. That's the $1 million idea. Now everyone watching this has to go and run with it and make it actually a thing. I think that's a fantastic place to end this, guys. Thank you so much. I know it's taken a lot out of your busy days, but it really does mean a lot. And hopefully, everyone watching this will have gained a lot from this. And also, can I say, 2 fantastic mentors on our GEM scheme as well. Guys, thank you so much for watching.
I have to say big shout out to Kareem,
and to Ashel, my mentee as well. Hi,
Ashel. Fantastic. Okay, well, goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good rest of the day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.